I never thought I'd find myself in this position, honestly. Life has a way of throwing curveballs at you, and this one hit me square in the chest. It all started about 10 years ago when my world crumbled before my eyes. I was married to my high school sweetheart, Emma. We were young, in love, and ready to take on the world together. At least, that's what I thought. Our daughter, Lily, was born just a few years after we got married. She was the light of my life, my little princess. Everything I did was for her. I worked hard, long hours to provide for my family, to make sure Lily had everything she needed. Emma stayed at home with Lily, and I thought we were happy. But as time went on, something changed. I started noticing the distance growing between Emma and me. She became more and more withdrawn, spending less time with me and more time out with friends. I tried to talk to her, tried to understand what was going on, but she always brushed me off. "I'm just tired," she'd say. "It's nothing. I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. One day, out of the blue, she sat me down and told me she was leaving. Just like that. No warning, no explanation. She said she wasn't happy anymore, that she needed to find herself. I was blindsided. I couldn't understand how she could just walk away from our life, from our daughter. But she did. Lily was only 6 at the time. She didn't understand why mommy wasn't coming home anymore. I had to be the one to explain it to her, to try and make sense of it all when I couldn't even make sense of it myself. I remember the look in her eyes, the confusion, the hurt. It broke my heart. From that day forward, it was just the two of us. I threw myself into being the best dad I could be. I was determined to make sure Lily didn't feel the absence of her mother, to give her all the love and support she needed. We were a team, and for a while, things were good. But then, a couple of years after Emma left, she reappeared. She had met someone new, a man named Tom, and they were getting married. She wanted Lily to be a part of her new life, her new family. I was hesitant at first, but I wanted to do what was best for Lily. I didn't want her to grow up without a mother, so I agreed to let her spend time with Emma and Tom. At first, it was just every other weekend. But then, slowly, it became more and more. Lily started spending more time with them, and I could see the change in her. She seemed happier, more content. I tried to be happy for her, but it was hard. It felt like I was losing her, like she was slipping away from me. I tried to talk to her about it, but she would just brush me off, much like her mother used to. "Dad, I'm fine," she'd say. "I love you, but I like spending time with Mom and Tom too." I didn't want to be the bad guy, so I let it go. But deep down, it hurt. As the years went on, Lily grew closer to Tom. They had a bond that I couldn't compete with. He was the fun dad, the one who took her on exciting trips, who bought her whatever she wanted. I was just the dad who worked all the time, who was always tired, who couldn't give her the same things Tom could. I did my best to be there for her, to be involved in her life, but it felt like I was always on the outside looking in. And then, when Lily was 16, Emma and Tom moved to a different state. They wanted Lily to move with them, to finish high school there. I was devastated. I didn't want to let her go, but I knew I couldn't stop her. She wanted to go, and I couldn't stand in her way. So, she left. I was alone again, just like when Emma first left. But this time, it was worse. I felt like I had failed as a father, like I wasn't enough for her. She would call sometimes, but it wasn't the same. She was busy with her new life, her new family. Years passed, and I tried to move on. I kept myself busy with work, with hobbies, anything to fill the void. But then, out of nowhere, I got a call from Lily. She was getting married. I was overjoyed at first, thinking maybe this was a chance to reconnect, to be a part of her life again. But then she dropped the bombshell. She didn't want me to walk her down the aisle. She wanted Tom to do it. "He's been there for me, Dad," she said. "He's always been like a father to me. I want him to walk me down the aisle." I was speechless. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything I had done for her, after all the sacrifices I had made, she wanted someone else to take my place on her wedding day. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I tried to talk to her, to explain how much it hurt me, but she wouldn't listen. "It's my decision," she said. "This is what I want." So, I made a decision of my own. I had been saving for years to give Lily a special gift on her wedding day. It was something I had been planning since she was a little girl. A necklace that had belonged to my mother, something I knew Lily had always admired. It was my way of showing her how much she meant to me, how proud I was of the woman she had become. But now, after everything, I decided to give it to someone else. My niece, Emily, was getting married the same year. She had always been close to me, always looked up to me as a father figure. I knew she would appreciate the gesture, that she would cherish the necklace. When Lily found out, she was furious. She called me, screaming, crying, accusing me of trying to ruin her wedding. "How could you do this to me, Dad?" she shouted. "How could you give it to someone else? That necklace was supposed to be mine. I tried to explain, tried to make her understand how much she had hurt me, but she wouldn't listen. You're being selfish, she said. You're just doing this to get back at me because I chose Tom. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was being selfish. But I had spent years being selfless, putting her happiness above my own. And this was the one thing I had left, the one way I could show her how much she meant to me. And she had thrown it all away. Now, as I sit here, I wonder if I made the right decision. I wonder if I should have just given her the necklace, let Tom walk her down the aisle, and swallowed my pride. But I can't shake the feeling that I did the right thing, that I stood up for myself for once. Lily still won't talk to me. She's cut me out of her life completely. And as much as it hurts, I can't bring myself to regret my decision. I raised her alone, gave her everything I had, and in the end, it still wasn't enough. But maybe, just maybe, this was the wake-up call she needed. Maybe one day she'll realize what she lost, what she threw away. And when that day comes, I'll be here, waiting, ready to forgive her. Because no matter what, she'll always be my little girl. But until then, I'll hold on to the memories, the good times we had, and the hope that one day, she'll come back to me. It wasn't until Emily's wedding that the full weight of my decision hit me. The day of the wedding, Emily was beaming as she walked down the aisle wearing the necklace. She looked stunning, and I could see how much the gesture meant to her. But there was a part of me that couldn't help but wonder if I had made a mistake. If maybe, just maybe, I should have given it to Lily instead. During the reception, Emily came up to me and hugged me tightly. "Thank you so much, Uncle," she said, her voice full of emotion. "This means the world to me." I smiled at her, but there was a heaviness in my chest that I couldn't shake. I had done something that made Emily happy, but at what cost? I had alienated my own daughter, pushed her further away. And the guilt was starting to eat away at me. A few weeks after Emily's wedding, I got a call from Emma. It was the first time I had heard from her in years, and the last person I expected to hear from. Her voice was calm, almost too calm, and I knew something was up. "Daniil," she began, "I think we need to talk about Lily." I took a deep breath, already dreading where this conversation was headed. "What about her?" "She's been really upset," Emma continued. "She's been crying nonstop since she found out about the necklace. I think you need to make things right." My anger flared up immediately. "She's upset? What about me, Emma? What about everything she's done to me? She didn't even want me at her wedding." "I know," Emma sighed. "But she's still your daughter. And she's hurting. I'm not saying you were wrong, but maybe you could reach out to her. Try to fix things." Fix things. As if it were that simple. But as much as I wanted to stay angry, to hold on to my pride, I knew Emma was right. Lily was still my daughter, and despite everything, I still loved her. I didn't want to lose her completely. So, I swallowed my pride and called Lily. The phone rang several times before she finally picked up. Her voice was shaky, and I could tell she had been crying. "Dad? Hey, sweetheart," I said softly. "I wanted to talk to you." There was a long pause before she responded. "Why did you do it, Dad? Why did you give the necklace to Emily?" I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Lily, I was hurt. You chose Tom to walk you down the aisle, and it felt like you were saying he was more important to you than I was. I know I shouldn't have given the necklace to Emily out of spite, but I wanted you to understand how much that hurt me." "I didn't mean to hurt you, Dad," she whispered. I wanted both of you to be a part of my life. I didn't think it would hurt you so much." "I know," I said, my voice breaking. "And I'm sorry, Lily. I'm sorry I let my pride get in the way. I should have been there for you, no matter what. I should have given you the necklace like I always planned to." There was another long silence, and I could hear her sniffling on the other end of the line. "I miss you, Dad," she finally said. "I don't want us to be like this." "I miss you too, sweetheart," I replied, tears welling up in my eyes. "I just want you to be happy. That's all I've ever wanted." "I am happy, Dad," she said softly. "But I'm happier when you're a part of my life." We talked for a long time after that, finally airing out all the hurt and anger that had built up over the years. It wasn't easy, and there were still a lot of things we needed to work through, but it was a start. We both made mistakes, and we both had a lot of healing to do. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like there was hope. A few weeks after that conversation, I received a package in the mail from Lily. Inside was a small, handwritten note and the necklace I had given to Emily. The note simply said, "Dad, I'm giving this back to you. It belongs to you, just like I do. Love, Lily." I was stunned. I called Lily immediately, and she explained that she had talked to Emily and asked for the necklace back. Emily had understood, and they had agreed that it should be returned to me. I didn't know what to say. I was overwhelmed with emotion, and all I could do was thank her. "Dad, I want you to keep it," Lily said. Maybe one day, when I have a daughter of my own, you can give it to her. It'll mean even more coming from you." That was the moment I knew we were going to be okay. We still had a long way to go, but we were on the right path. Lily and I were rebuilding our relationship, and that was all that mattered. As for the wedding, I didn't end up walking Lily down the aisle. She still wanted Tom to do it, and I respected her decision. But I was there, sitting in the front row, watching as my little girl married the love of her life. And when she looked at me, smiling through her tears, I knew that I hadn't lost her after all. After the wedding, Lily and I made a pact. We would never let anything come between us again. We would always talk, always communicate, no matter how difficult it might be. And we would always be there for each other. Life has a funny way of working out, even when things seem hopeless. I've learned that sometimes, you have to let go of your pride and be willing to forgive, even when it's hard. Because in the end, family is all that matters. And no matter what, Lily will always be my little girl. Now, as I sit here, holding the necklace in my hands, I can't help but smile. It's not just a piece of jewelry anymore. It's a symbol of the bond between me and my daughter, a bond that no one can ever take away. And I know that one day, when the time is right, I'll pass it on to the next generation, just like my mother did for me. But for now, I'll keep it safe, a reminder of everything we've been through, and everything we still have to look forward to. Because no matter what, we're family. And that's something worth fighting for. A few years later, Lily and I had come a long way. Our relationship was stronger than ever, and we had both grown so much. We had learned to appreciate each other, to respect each other's decisions, and most importantly, to always be honest with each other. One day, out of the blue, Lily called me with some exciting news. She and her husband were expecting their first child. I was over the moon, thrilled at the thought of becoming a grandfather. Lily sounded just as excited, and we spent hours talking about everything she was feeling, all the plans she had, and how much she was looking forward to this new chapter in her life. As the months went by, I was there for Lily every step of the way. We talked almost every day, and I made sure to visit as often as I could. When the big day finally arrived, I was there at the hospital, pacing the waiting room, my heart pounding with anticipation. And then, finally, the moment I had been waiting for arrived. Lily gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. When I held her for the first time, I was overwhelmed with emotion. She was perfect in every way, and I couldn't believe how much she looked like Lily when she was a baby. Lily and her husband decided to name her Grace, a name that had always been special to our family. As I held little Grace in my arms, I knew that this was the beginning of something truly special. A few months after Grace was born, Lily and I had a conversation that I will never forget. We were sitting in her living room, Grace sleeping peacefully in her crib nearby. Lily looked at me, her eyes filled with emotion, and said, "Dad, I want to ask you something." "Of course, sweetheart," I replied, curious as to what she was about to say. "I want you to be Grace's godfather," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "You've always been there for me, and I want you to have a special place in her life too." I was speechless. I had never expected something like this, and I felt tears welling up in my eyes. "Lily, I don't know what to say. I would be honored." Lily smiled, reaching out to take my hand. "You've always been my rock, Dad. And I know you'll be the same for Grace." From that moment on, I made a promise to myself that I would always be there for Grace, just as I had been for Lily. I would be the best godfather I could be, and I would make sure that Grace always knew how much she was loved. As the years went by, my relationship with Lily continued to grow stronger. We shared so many special moments, and I cherished every single one of them. I watched as Grace grew into a beautiful, smart, and kind-hearted young girl, and I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. One day, when Grace was about 5 years old, Lily came to visit me with her. We were sitting in the living room, and Grace was playing with some toys on the floor. Lily looked at me, a thoughtful expression on her face, and said, "Dad, there's something I want to tell you." "Of course, sweetheart. What is it?" I asked, curious. "I've been thinking a lot about that necklace," she said, her voice soft. "The one you were going to give me on my wedding day." I nodded, wondering where this conversation was headed. "I want you to keep it, Dad," she continued. "I want you to hold on to it until Grace is old enough. And when the time is right, I want you to give it to her. I want her to have something that connects her to you, to our family." I was deeply moved by her words, and I felt a lump form in my throat. "Lily, I'd be honored to do that." "Thank you." Lily smiled, reaching out to squeeze my hand. "You've always been there for me, Dad. And I know you'll be there for Grace too. I want her to have the same love and support that you've given me." As I looked at Grace playing on the floor, I knew that this was my chance to make things right, to create a legacy of love and support for the next generation. And I knew that no matter what, I would always be there for Grace, just as I had been for Lily. Looking back on everything, I realize that life doesn't always go the way we plan. There are twists and turns, challenges and heartaches that we never see coming. But through it all, family is what matters most. And I'm grateful every day for the love and forgiveness that brought me and Lily back together. Now, as I sit here, writing down these memories, I feel a deep sense of peace. I know that I did the best I could, that I made mistakes but also learned from them. And I know that no matter what the future holds, I'll always have the love of my daughter and my granddaughter to guide me through. And when the time is right, I'll pass on that special necklace to Grace, along with all the love and wisdom that it represents. Because in the end, that's what being a family is all about, passing on the love, the lessons, and the memories that make life worth living. So, here I am, with a heart full of gratitude and hope, looking forward to the future and all the joy it will bring. Because no matter what, I'll always be there for the ones I love. And that's a promise I intend to keep.